What's up, everybody? Welcome to Among the Fence. My name is Aaron. Today we're checking out the fourth studio album, Violent Nature, by the post-hardcore band I Prevail. They formed back in 2013 and quickly and surprisingly rose in popularity thanks to their cover of Taylor Swift's Blank Space, which was a bonus track on their debut EP titled Heart and Mind. And that song, that cover, it slaps. It's still fantastic even today. They didn't release an LP, their debut LP, until 2016, 3 years after they formed. It was titled Lifelines. It was a pretty solid album. A lot of people who were listening to it, like as it came out, it's a lot of people consider it to be their best. It's a lot of people's favorites for sure, but I personally don't think they really came into their own until they dropped their following two albums, Trauma and True Power, which came out in 2019 and in 2022. Both of these records are pretty much perfect as far as I Prevail goes. Their sound is more polished on these albums. The concepts are a little bit more engaging. Their songwriting is a little bit more complex. They push themselves just a little bit harder in terms of songwriting. With that said, their songwriting has never really been all that complex or even like super original sounding. I've always kind of struggled with how generic this band sounds, especially when you have bands like A Day to Remember, especially like back in 2013 era, where it just feels a little bit better. Honestly, they're doing the same sort of thing, but they're just they're not doing the same thing. I consider I Prevail to be a little bit closer to like pop metal. I know that's kind of insulting, especially for a lot of people who love this band, but honestly, it's not really my cup of tea. I've never actually disliked this band. They do this style really well, and whenever I have that itch that needs to be scratched, they do a really good job of scratching it. And things seem to be going pretty good for the band, but not all was well in paradise. As of May 15th of 2025, they announced that Brian Birkenheiser was no longer going to be in the band, which a lot of people were pretty upset. Some people didn't really care that much, but a lot of people, they were shaking their fists. I did a review of one of the singles that they released for this album, and I posted it on TikTok, and a lot of people were not happy about Brian no longer being in the band with hashtag free Brian and all kinds of stupid stuff. But outside of the drama, I mean, I get it, because he was the sound. He was the clean vocalist since the beginning. He was kind of what made them sound a little bit more unique for me personally. His clean vocals had the I Prevail signature sound to them, and without that, I don't really know if there's much else that's really gonna separate this band from basically any other like radio rock band. However, I will say that the first single that they released for this album was the title track, Violent Nature, is one of the best songs that this band has ever released. Sure, the lyrics are corny. I mean, you're not gonna like sit there and dissect it and try and figure out the deeper meaning to it, because honestly, there isn't one. But that's kind of been the way this music has always been anyways. The vocals are pretty much everything that they need to be, especially the distorted vocals, which is pretty much what this entire song is. So you don't really get a whole glimpse of what life is like without Brian. The lead guitar part in the chorus is sick. The verses are chaotic. You don't really know where you are in this song until the hook comes back around again. You don't know, okay, like am I in the verse, or we're going to go to the bridge next? And all of a sudden the hook comes back around again, and it just kind of gives you that grounding sensation amongst all the insanity that's going on. And if this was the direction that I Prevail was going to go in, then hell yeah. But I don't think that was their plan. Because then they go and release the next single, Into Hell, which is probably one of the most generic, soulless songs they could have written. It's not the most generic song they've ever written, but following Violent Nature, it took everything away. It took all the promise that they had. It's repetitive with very boring, clean vocals. Uninspiring drums lead the way throughout this entire song. The lyrics consist of just a bunch of cliche phrases strung together. And then if we look at the opening track, Synthetic Soul, we see pretty much the same thing. I mean, there's at least a little bit more instrumentation going on that's kind of more interesting, but it's just for like a brief second. And not only that, but the name of this, Synthetic Soul, is definitely saying something. This is the most perfect name for this song, and honestly, like, the amount of soullessness that's not in this album, they could have easily have named this album Synthetic Soul. NWO, which means New World Order, something they say plenty of times throughout this song, has a kind of solid riff as far as like modern metalcore goes, but not really. The synth in the verses is just bad. The drums would have been pretty sick if literally anything else was going on to support them, because like even the vocals are basically just like sitting in the back doing almost nothing. The only saving grace of this song is the chorus, where the vocals are actually like doing everything that they can, but I don't know, it's just, it feels like nothing. Don't Pray For Me has one of the most promising intros in this album, and it comes back around for the chorus, but by the time you go from the intro to the chorus, the song has already become pretty lame. If they implemented a little bit more of that clean guitar and made it kind of like an indie pop punk kind of song with that chimey guitar, pop it up every once in a while and keeping the chorus exactly the same as it is, and even with the heavy parts thrown in there, I feel like this song would have been pretty dope. But they pretty much missed the mark on everything. I don't even know why they started it, because they brought in the clean guitar, sounded really cool, and then they were just like, and it just turned into a really boring song, honestly. And now moving on to the song I did a review on, Annihilate Me, when it, like I said, I created a short for it, and honestly, it's pretty boring. That sums it up. The attempts to build emotion fall short. The verses are okay, sort of. The chorus is so cringy, saying, "Come nail me to my throne, I'm the king of suffering." Like, couldn't they have written literally anything better? It's just, like I said, it's just cliche stuff all strung together. It doesn't really mean anything. They don't really say anything. It's all very vague. That way it relates to everybody. I even have somebody say that this song related to them, and that would they gave it a 4 out of 5. And I'm like, of course it relates to you. They're not saying anything that's deep and meaningful. It's as generic as could be. That way it can relate to everybody without actually meaning anything at the same time. And the production ruins the music all around. Annihilate Me is just a bad song. I mean, as far as like radio rock stuff goes, it works pretty well as a single. It gets the hype going because it's got that stompy sing-along kind of thing to it. But otherwise, I mean, it's just not good. Then we have Rain, which would have been a really good song if they kept the riff going through the verse, because the riff was solid and they just cut it out. It sounds like the worst version of like Wage War's Gravity that you could possibly have. Again, trying to build that emotion, trying to be pretty epic, and it doesn't work. The song actually has some pretty good moments, but Rain just is kind of boring. I mean, like I said, it's just a copy of Gravity by Wage War, and I gotta say they did it way better. Crimson and Clover is the slow, dramatic song, and honestly, I didn't dislike it as much as I thought I would or even wanted to. It's still pretty bad. The chord progression doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really go anywhere, and the vocals sound super weak. And I think it's more on the mix than the actual performance, which is sad, because even when they do something that could be good, they got the mix working against them, and it's just there's no saving it, I feel like. And then they go right back to being super aggressive with the song God, which is pretty much the same exact song as Violent Nature for the most part. It's definitely more of like a live setting song. It says a little bit less than Violent Nature for sure, but I feel like the whole purpose of this is just to get the circle pit to go nuts. The music and the guttural growls are a really nice change of pace. It's not like, again, super original sounding by any means, but it's just nice to hear them kind of branch out just a little bit in terms of their songwriting, and not writing a song that's just strictly made for radio play to try and get as much attention and as much plays as physically possible. And I'm not saying that this isn't that, but it was an attempt. You know, there's a little bit more effort put into it. And then they finished the album off with the song Stay Away, which is an enjoyable song. I found myself liking this one quite a bit. I dig the vocal layering, the droning music, which mesmerizes you. Surprisingly, this is my favorite song on the album. And I don't know if it's because I listened to all the other songs so many times and I got so absorbed in them to where literally if they do anything that is kind of entertaining will completely win me over. But I enjoy this song a lot. By the time I got to the end of this album, every single time I listened to it for the review, it was a treat. It put a smile on my face finally. And let's be honest, it's just an architect's copy at this point. They're just copying the formula of what a really popular band did to become popular. There's not much else to say. Brian's vocals are missed, sure, whatever, but still, the music is super uneventful. The lyrics are cringy, they're lazy and very lackluster. Majority of the time, there are some moments where the lyrics are like, okay, like they had something there, but they didn't really care enough to rewrite it in a different way. This already pretty generic band that I personally didn't really have a problem with before. I'd listen to them and be like, yeah, this is pretty good, has become even more dreary to listen to. So with all that said, I got to give Violent Nature by I Prevail a 3.5 out of 10. But I want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Violent Nature. Let me know what you'd rate it, what your favorite song is, if you have any. And also, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give it a like. And maybe you hated this video, you could give it a dislike and let me know how stupid I am. But also while you're down there, let me know what you want me to review next. And also, don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell icon. Getting super close to 1,500 subscribers. It's a huge number for me. I know some of you guys are subscribed to Fantana or whatever's got millions, but 1,500 subscribers is something that I never thought I would get, let alone even like 100 or 50 or whatever. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to listen to me talk about music. I hope you have a good rest of your day or night whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time.